some reason you're unmuted. That way we can hear our author today. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Desmondi, and I am the publisher at Cardinal Rule Press. And I am here today to introduce to you one of our authors whose book just debuted 10 days ago, Donn. Hello, Donn. How are you?
I am well. I'm great, Maria. Thank you. And hey, everybody, welcome. And I'm so glad you guys are hanging with us for a bit for this reading. So thanks for being here.
Yes. And so for those of you who are here, we will be sending an email tomorrow, or maybe even today. It depends. But in that email, we will have a discount for you to purchase Donn's book. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will also be putting, oops, we have someone unmuted. I will also be putting some links in the, hold on, let's see if I can mute this person. I will be putting some links in the chat for freebies that Cardinal Rule Press is giving away. Like,
I just switch the thing.
Okay, everyone just
turn the thing over.
You know what I'm going to do? Hold on, I can do this. Yeah. I will go to participants. Yeah. I'm going to mute everyone. Here we go. Okay, that's better. And then Donn, I'll have to ask you to unmute. Okay, so I will be putting in some links in the chat for you to get free coloring pages from the book It'll Be Irie. There is a reader's guide that has lesson plans. So everything will be attached in the chat. So without further ado, Donn is going to read his brand new book. Tell us a little bit of the inspiration from the book. You can do that before or after. I'm going to mute myself and put it over to you, Donn.
Thank you, Maria. All right. So first of all, I just want to say I do apologize if it seems that my screen is a little dark. I do have maximum all the lights on, and for some reason, and the window shades, but it's where I am. There's no direct sunlight. It's the way the windows are situated north and south because the summer and the valley is so hot. So it's purposely made so that we don't get sun. It's shaded all the time. So, but hopefully you can see it. So I'll just hold it here. But this is called It'll Be Irie. That's the name of the book. And Irie is a Jamaican patois slang or term. Jamaican patois is the language that they speak in on the island of Jamaica. And other Caribbean islands have similar patois. However, Jamaican patois is in its own sense a form of English. However, it has its own grammatical structure and its own rules. So yeah, so the book is actually written in patois, or I should say patois light, which is to say we eased back on some of the dialect because otherwise it might be like undecipherable because it's pretty, you know. But the book is basically inspired by my family. It's inspired by their experiences. Both of my parents are from the island of Jamaica. My mom actually went to Jamaica when she was a kid, when she was like 12 years old, with her mom and sister to New York City. And so she actually, like my protagonist here, actually moved to New York City as well. And she had a rough time of it at the beginning, as you could assume, because of her dialect, and she felt shy and she was almost embarrassed by it. And it wasn't until a teacher actually was proactive enough to teach her class about patois and let them understand that she was actually speaking English, just a different form of English, is when my mom actually felt better and acknowledged. And this is also inspired by my dad, which I will tell you about afterwards. And there's also a true story that I experienced as a kid that's also in the book. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and read the book.
Hold on real quick, Donn. I think
yes.
I'm on summer mode, so I apologize. I do want to quickly introduce Heather Dew. Heather is our American Sign Language interpreter, so she will be signing the entire time you read the book. Heather, thank you so much for being here and allowing us to make this reading accessible for children who have difficulty hearing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Heather, as well. All right. So y'all ready for a story?
We are. Let's do it.
Okay. All right, here we go. It'll Be Irie, written by me and illustrated by Alejandra Barajas. I am moving to America. And when Pops and Mama tell me, I know right away what to do. Just wait until everyone see how American I can be. I start researching at my cousin Percy's house. Uncle Phil have a whole heap of American movies, but they're older, so we use what Percy called ancient technology. Let me give you a close-up there of the ancient technology. All the big kids in the room, I'm sure you recognize that under the TV. Then I use what Mama called the old-fashioned internet. And again, big and little kids in the room, you can see where he's at. This is pre-internet days, so this was the library. After that, I go out into the field. I take good notes, but I have no money to buy the latest American fashion, so I must improvise. There's the, you can see it. Mama is not exactly a fan of improvisation. And if you can see, he's got some pants there. And if you can see all the cuts, didn't do a great job. And his mom is handing him some needle and thread because she's not amused. Where is she? There she goes. There's Mama. There's a true story behind that. So that's where I'm going to tell you that true story. Every day I live and breathe everything American. I never miss a chance to try out my new American words. And here he's at dinner and he's saying to his parents, that red snapper was the bomb. And here he's fishing with his cousin Percy and he says, sweet. And here I even practice making an American dish until I get it right. And he's making a pizza. Finally, the day come. Goodbye, Kingston, Jamaica. Hello, Jamaica Queens. On my first day of school, I am prepared to make my best impression. It's so Gucci to meet everyone. And may I say, you all look particularly fire today. Lunch is not what I expect. I get 2 lunch trays to prove I have a big American appetite. At recess, I show everyone I know a thing or two about American games. But he's saying goal, and they're playing this. I never miss a chance to use the latest American lingo. And here he says to this boy, your haircut is swole, bro, like straight up goat. And I'm going to quiz you guys later to see if you know what those slang words mean and see if he's using them correctly. Or show I'm an expert on popular American music. Here he is singing. He's in the library. When I see my classmates approach, I am ready for their praise. But that is not what happens at all. And they say, how come you don't have dreadlocks like Bob Marley? Don't you listen to reggae music? Are you sure you're even a Jamaican? I get so mad, I forget to speak like them. And he says, go away, I'm done with all of you. So now he's speaking full patois. How was your first day? Mama say when I arrive home, I go straight to my room. By the time Pops come home from work, I feel more sad than mad. I'll never be a real American, I say to him. The kids at school don't even think I'm a real Jamaican. Of course you're a real Jamaican, Pops say. Where you come from will always be part of you. When you think of Jamaica, what memories make you most happy? I think about my life in Jamaica. I think of playing games, swimming, and fishing. I think of birthdays and holidays with family and friends. Then it come to me.
Christmas time, I say, when I get to help you make Christmas cake. I would make one right now if it were Christmas. And his dad says, who said have to be? Pop say, we get busy measuring, pouring, and mixing. When the cake ready, we all try a piece. The next day, I share my cake, Christmas cake with my classmates. I tell them how I make it with Pops every December. They love it. They ask me what it's like in Jamaica, and I tell them how Percy and I would fish for red snapper and yellowtail in Port Antonio. And then I show them how to play my favorite Jamaican game, Dandy Shandy. It's like dodgeball, only the ball is made from a juice box. In Jamaica, we say Irie when something is good. By the time the dismissal bell ring, I realize I am no longer trying to be an American. I am just being me. In my new country, surrounded by my new friends, that is enough.
Fantastic. And if you can see any of the faces in the Zoom windows, we are giving you a round of applause. Thank you so much. And Heather, thank you. We really appreciate you being here today and signing the reading of It'll Be Irie. So thank you.
So hopefully you guys could see the book.
Yes,
I'm sorry, your screens are better than mine. So
we saw the pictures close up, and if they want to see more, I think they are able to purchase a copy. I think that would be a great idea. And guess what, everyone? I put the discount code 25% off your entire order on the Cardinal Rule website this week, and the code is new book, all capital letters. We will also send that to the individuals in the replay.
So, so just to tell you the story that I promised you after the book.
Yes.
Well, first of all, my dad was an actual baker of the family. Every Christmas, he would make, he would make like 8, 9, or 10 Christmas cakes, which are also called rum cakes in Jamaica, because in fact, they are made with rum. Although, as you guys can imagine, in the book launch events I had this weekend and last weekend, I had a restaurant make a rumless cake for obvious reasons. I grew up in Jamaican kids eat rum cake, but when it comes to other parents, right, we don't want them smelling alcohol in the cake. So, but that's usually how it's made. And he would send them all over to family far and wide. And I usually would help him. Although when I was younger, I probably did more bowl licking than I actually did mixing and pouring. But you know, somebody had to lick those bowls, right? So so that was based on my dad. And if you can remember the scene where Raymond actually sees the ripped jeans in the mall, and he tries to replicate those same ripped jeans, and he does a horrible job, and his mom is there with the needle and thread. So the true story behind that is when I was 12 years old, I wanted a denim jacket, and my mom got one for me. But I saw a kid at school who had the sleeves cut off, and I thought that was actually a much better, a cooler look. So I took it upon myself to go home and get her sharpest scissors. And it took me a while, but I cut off those sleeves. And of course, they were uneven. So I had to keep cutting and keep cutting and keep cutting. And of course, I'm a kid, so what do I know? Next thing you know, all the sleeves are gone. The jacket is ruined. I wore it anyway. Downstairs, I go through the kitchen. My mom is there. She takes one look at me and she says, "Boy, I am never buying you another article of clothing again." Which of course she went back on that like the next Christmas, and she got me some socks and stuff, or underwear. But yeah, so that was so as you can see, the story's influenced by myself and by my family. And my dad, actually, as far as music and reggae, growing up with Bob Marley, all of that stuff, I actually did experience, of course, all of that. In fact, I can say that when I was 5 years old, 1978, on the Kayak tour, I actually saw Bob Marley and the Wailers at Madison Square Garden in New York City. I don't remember it because it's only 5, but yeah.
I love your energy in talking about your family's traditions and your family's background. And I think so many children can take this story and really relate to feeling different, feeling maybe nervous about not fitting in, and doing things that maybe don't feel right or comfortable in order to fit in. One of my favorite parts of the story is when he goes to school and he's talking slang, but it's actually like they're not picking up on it. And it reminds me of like learning Spanish. We were taught slang in our Spanish class, but if you actually go where people are speaking the language, that slang doesn't always translate. So Donn, tell us a little bit about, you've had some local events, you're in the California area, you've had several launch events. So far, how are children reacting to the story?
Yeah, no, they're really digging it. I mean, and the big kids too, you know, parents as well, and adults that have come. But yeah, what I'm finding is that they are connecting to it in the sense that they see this other kid in a new environment. And even with the lingo, you know, like when I wrote this book, I had to learn a couple of things because, you know, we're our age where there's new slang terms today. And so these kids were recognizing it. I would, you know, as I was going through it, and granted, Raymond is maybe using these terms incorrectly, or he's trying to use them and he's not really using them right. But when I ask the kids, I'm like, so who knows what, you know, goat is, you know, and kids like, oh, greatest of all time. I'm like, okay. So so when I say it's Gucci to meet you, that means it's good to meet you. Like they were just, you know, just shouting them out. And I'm like, okay, so you guys are, you know, you're with it. You're totally, I'm learning from you. So they really connected with that. And then, you know, the making the cake and having the cake. And then because, guys, I was actually lucky enough to find a great baker who had who made Jamaican Christmas cake. They were able to actually experience it as well as seeing it in the book. And a lot of them loved it, actually, because it was really good. I actually found a really great baker. So so yeah, it's been really kids are asking questions about it and really participating in the reading. So it's been great.
I wanted to show everyone that in the back of the cake, there is a recipe for Jamaican rumless cake. So that is definitely something that teachers can do in the classroom, or even as parents, you can bake with your children and you can enjoy that Christmas cake.
And just to add one thing before you go
Yeah.
on, Maria, just one little thing. And yes, this is a slight error on my part. If you make the recipe, do not add the allspice. That was unfortunately on my part just an oversight. I didn't see it. And it is a savory Jamaican spice, but not for rum cake. So leave that out.
Oh, we have some questions for you. Donn, how old were you when you wrote your first book?
Ooh, that's a great question. And actually I talked about that with the kids too, because what I told them is, you know, I remember creating my first comic book, which I still have. And I made that when I was like maybe 12 years old. And, you know, with the 8x11 sheets, and I made the boxes and I drew the pictures and I, you know, created stories. I mean, I had like 4 or 5 different comics in this whole collection that I made. And then when I was in the 7th grade, we actually, the Young Authors Club, we actually had a club, which was part of a national program. We all made actual books. I wrote a story and we wrote out the story, illustrated my story. We created covers, we bound it, we glued it, the whole 9 yards, which is an amazing experience. So I, you know, tell kids, hey, you don't have to wait to be published. You don't have to wait till you're adult. You can make books now. If you have ideas, you have stories, you have a pen or paper or pencil and paper, and you want to write and draw, go for it. Create your stories now. I actually have an aunt who told me in Canada recently when I told her about my book, she's like, Donnie, you don't remember? She's like, you were 5 years old. And when you visited with your parents and your brother, I gave you some paper and some scissors and pencil. You came back to me like several hours later with a whole story written out with pictures and everything. I don't remember because again, I'm 5, but she's like, yeah, you were telling stories even then. So that was actually, according to my Aunt Peggy, my first book.
That is super cool. Someone was asking, Donn, what is your favorite illustration in the story? Can you point that page out to us?
Well, it's probably honestly just because of the fact that it's so, it's my own personal, it's my favorite because it's one of my favorite moments. It is the one where Raymond is trying to create or replicate the American fashion, ripped jean thing, and he kind of fails at it, and his mom is giving him some needle and thread. It's funny because I guess for obvious reasons, because it was inspired by my personal experience of what happened, which is funny now. Then it was like, oh no, but yeah, that's my favorite.
Fantastic. And this is a good question. Those listening would love to know, what was your journey like from the time that you wrote the story to the time that it came out? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was an amazing story. That is an amazing journey in terms of how the story came about. So this particular one I started writing in 2018 is when I first, the first draft of this particular story. Like most stories, I think it's only after the fact, after we write something, then we look back and we go, oh, okay, I was inspired by, this thing in my life, or these people in my life, my family, or whatever. And I began, as I was revising it and working on it, after a certain point of time when I felt it was finally ready to be submitted, which is to say I wanted to submit it to publishers to seek publication, to get it published. Because previously I am a self-published author, and initially I actually have a picture book that I self-published myself. This one I wanted to have traditionally. So I started submitting, and you do what's called rounds of submissions, where you submit and you wait, you put it out there, and maybe get some back within, several months, and 3 to 6 months, and then you put out some more. And but then, you don't, constantly think about and wondering, okay, am I going to hear from somebody? You kind of can't do that because it'll stress you out. So you just kind of put it out of your head. And that's what happens. You submit, you don't think about it. And then all of a sudden comes that day. And so for me, that day, fast forward from 2018, when I first started writing the book and revising, to 2022. And February of 2022 is when I received a letter of interest that they were considering, from Cardinal Press, considering publishing the book. And so there was final rounds, and when that there was another revision submission, and when they sent me back the email saying, congratulations, we've actually we would like to publish your book, and we'd like to offer you a publishing contract, which of course for everybody here who's an author or would-be author, and again, like I said, guys, yes, when you're little, you can just write now. You don't have to wait until this moment. However, I will say, if it's something that you really, really, really love to do, and you keep doing it, and as you get older, you keep doing it, this is the day when you might have this wonderful dream come true, where someone says to you, hey, I want to publish your book. And that's what happened to me. It is a dream come true, because it was something that I wanted to have for a really long time, and to share the story in the biggest way possible. And Cardinal Rule Press, which is a phenomenal, I can't speak enough about how amazing Maria Dismondi and the entire family at Cardinal Rule Press is. They've proved to me in the year and a half, because that's how long it takes for publication, from the time that I got that letter and they were like, hey, we want to do this, to a year and a half later, to now, July 1st, 2023, which just happened, which at the time I'm thinking, dang, I got to wait a year and a half. But yeah, that's how the process works, because again, the process is then there's more revision. There's now I'm working with an editor for several months, making sure that every single word, every single punctuation, everything, the story is exactly what we want it to be. So that takes some time. And then there's a whole lot of other steps that the publisher on their end, what they're doing, setting everything up for the eventual publication. And then, of course, a lot of prep work for the authors, for me, and our positions, because now we're also also getting ready as well too. You know, now we've got social media, so you start promoting it and you start making connections. You want to connect with other authors, other writers, and then there's parents, and then there's libraries, and there's teachers, and all that stuff. So, so that's what we've been doing the last year and a half, is really just a lot of preparation for this month, and here we are.
And it doesn't stop. It doesn't.
And it doesn't stop. No, and we are. Yes.
There was a question about your communication with the illustrator, and I know you had feedback on the family members, so we sent you the character sketches. You had feedback there, and I think that was all the communication you had with the illustrator, correct? And you also
yeah,
black and whites
much.
and the color for making comments.
Yeah, and you know, so again, I had the understanding, of course, when I self-published my book, I illustrated it myself because I'm also a visual artist. However, I do know that for everybody in the audience who's not an author, that when you actually have someone who offers you a contract, like to say, hey, I want to publish your book, they will be the ones who then choose the illustrator. It's not up to the author, it's usually up to the publisher. So they found this amazingly talented illustrator, Alejandra Barajas. Now, another thing, there's something that I learned while I was actually, so there's a little mini lesson in writing for stories like this, where there are pictures, there are illustrations, is that the words are telling half of the story and the illustrations are telling the other half. So the author's job is not to do the illustrator's job and describe everything. So that's why we don't use, when we write these stories, we don't use adjectives or colors or things like that, because the illustrations are going to show colors, they're going to show how things look and all of that. However, it's very important when you're developing your story that you see these pictures in your head as you're writing them, because in fact, that is how you are going to know how to write your part and what's called the text, the words, right? And so it's about creating that balance. And so the more clear you are with your story, like, oh, I know exactly now what the story is, the beginning, the middle, the end, then you have a very clear picture, and you as the writer write what's called illustrator's notes, and they are basically a map for or a general idea that the illustrator will have to say, okay, this is the general idea for this illustration, this is what I'm going for, and that's how the story comes together, the text and the illustrations, which I was very happy with. Now, granted, yes, I also was aware that she's an artist like me. So artists don't want to be told exactly what to do in every single way, because we want to have a little bit of room to be creative ourselves. So with that in mind, I also understand that the final illustrations and the final decisions for how things would look ultimately, and I understand this, and I was fine with this as the writer, are going to lie with Alejandra, either Alejandra or both Cardinal Rule Press, in deciding what those final things would be. And so at the end of the day, getting back the book, it's beautiful, and I'm very happy with it.
Well, and we are happy for you. So we want to just once more congratulate you. And we're going to ask everyone to show your hands. We're going to give a big round of applause to Donn for this big day. Thank you for reading your book here. We will send the replay to the over 100 people who signed up for your reading today. So Donn, we wish you the very best in sharing this beautiful message with the world. And I'm just, as the publisher at Cardinal Rule Press, I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to congratulate you. I had the opportunity to meet you a couple months ago, and we're just really thrilled for you. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And Maria, thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Woohoo.